Ao no Flag is a great coming-of-age story showing you the different thinking of people who lead different lives from different environments. There is so much to talk about, not just the story itself, including side characters like Mami and Masuo. To be honest, I only really did start reading it because it's tagged as BL. To be honest, it's only really 5 to 10% real, and most of it is really coming of age and slice of life. I think this was the real focus of the author and not as a love story, which would explain how it ended. A lot of readers complained how it ended so abruptly, but if the author meant to make a coming of age story and BL is just a background to set up the problems they need to overcome, then it's understandable. After primary school, Taichi and Thomas drifted apart according to Taichi, and this was because of Taichi's lack of self-confidence, constantly comparing himself to Taichi, who's tall, handsome, can do anything, and brimming of charisma. While Taichi is short, average at things, and not really charismatic. This was the wedge that caused the distance between the two friends. Of course, this wasn't what Toma wanted. He kept on starting conversations with Taichi, but Taichi couldn't really keep up with his amount of friends and being so outwardly perfect. Taichi gave up on their friendship. So if, say, Futaba never came into the picture, the circumstances would have probably just have worsened. There was no problem. Taichi didn't seem like it was a relationship he wanted to maintain. In the end, he gave up on Toma. And it's really only because of Futaba that their relationship kind of was reinvigorated. This was not really that talked about compared to other issues. He felt like he wasn't free and couldn't do as he wanted around his brother and sister-in-law. Although they didn't say why, was it because of after their parents' death, his brother started to support him financially, and as a child, he couldn't really do anything. So he had to calibrate his actions to not disappoint his brother. The root of the problem was the lack of communication on Thomas' side, resulting to lack of understanding. Despite Seiya reaching out to Toma blocked himself from it. Why? No one knows. It even took a girl who couldn't give up on him to admit to anyone how he felt towards Taichi. And it took the whole school to talk about it for him to confess. Taichi's problem was communication, and the person who fixed it is Futaba. When they talked in the garden after the gay issue was circling around school, they talked about it, and I think that's when Toma resolved his communication issues. Or at least she was the catalyst to resolving his communication issues. I think the only problem Futaba has is that she doesn't really think highly of herself. This stems from how she's treated for being very clumsy, but she tries to understand other people and their pain. When she found out about Thomas' feelings for Taichi, she thought about how it must have felt when he loved Taichi first and for so long. No problem there really, just her view of herself, which probably have gotten better as she grew up even without meeting Taichi. Just like Toma, she has had feelings for Futaba, her best friend, but couldn't confess or say anything because she not only does know that Futaba likes someone else, but she's also afraid of how other people will react to her being a lesbian. She does understand after talking to Akiko, Thomas' sister-in-law, that you really can't do anything about people's response to what you are and your actions, and it's more important to have no regrets. I guess she does eventually accept herself being bisexual because in the end, she does marry a man who says because of how she is, he tends to get jealous of both men and women around her. And it is realistic at how she was never able to confess to Futaba. Not all people in real life need to confess just for closure. A lot of people were sad about her story, but I think it's pretty okay and pretty realistic after thinking about it. Mami is a great character. Can't really find anything she had trouble with in herself. Her main problem was not being able to find guy friends who she wouldn't have problems with. As of the moment, she only has Shingo as her only unproblematic guy friend. She has had no problems being friends with girls and boys, but girls start to become jealous and territorial at her when she befriends men, and men only see her as a potential girlfriend material. Although she doesn't really let that bring her down, she knows that she has done nothing wrong, so she just continues her life. Another positive trait is she is extremely loyal, so I guess that's why her closest two friends don't really get jealous around her because they know she'll only look at Toma. This is including the fact that Shingo is actually in a relationship with one of the two girls. Canska is a great example of someone who can't be friends with girls because his view is completely the opposite of Mami. In his mind, girls are way different than men biologically. Women are smaller, weaker, and overall fragile. For example, men can just beat each other up as a way of understanding each other, and a man can't do that to a girl. And according to him, there's a lot of places you can't touch a girl in while it would be fine with his bros. Girls are so different, which is why he can't understand being gay. There is also that passing sentence saying he was molested multiple times, which is another factor for his problems with gayness. He does know that there are individual differences between each people. For example, there are men who are more feminine despite being straight, and there are bros among women who are fine with punching out differences. But compared to gender differences, individual differences are way too small. Despite all this, he is fine with staying friends with Toma. He understood that they are Toma's friends and he's just having problems accepting what Toma is. You can't really hate him for that. You can still understand him, and despite his stand on being gay, he is still trying to understand Toma and wants to still be his friend. And finally, my favorite character of this series, Shingo, is so insightful. I think the most insightful in this series. This very smart, very insightful. He empathizes with everyone and he smart. He he empathizes with his friends, he thinks before he talks, and he really analyzes the situation before doing anything. He's also the only guy friend that Mami completely trusts, that really sees her only as a friend. Even when he had a girlfriend and she complained about his friendship with Mami, he knew he was in the right and chose his friendship because the girlfriend's accusations were baseless and jealousy driven. I also like how when he was with Shoko, one of Mami's friends, this was in chapter 44 where he really shined. He corrected what they said, showing how their logic was not really rectifying Kensuke's perspective. It's a really good series to watch and read, and you can read it for fun. But if you're approaching this in a BL perspective, then it might not be what you wanted. But if you're very curious or but if you're very curious about psychology and how people think, it's a very good anime to it's a very good manga to read.